listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Radio's authority on the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology, celebrating 25 years of broadcasting. Broadcasting around the world and to the great beyond. Listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Radio's authority on the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology, celebrating 25 years of broadcasting. Broadcasting around the world and to the great beyond.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. Worldwide, toll-free, 800-610-7035. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV. You can listen to the X-Zone 24/7, 365 at www.xzoneradiotv.com. And our podcasts are available at xzonepodcast.com. My guest this hour is MAUREEN McGILL. She is an author, an associate professor of theater and dance at Pacific Lutheran University in Tacoma, Washington for over 38 years. She directed the university dance ensemble and taught courses in music, movement, choreography, and continues now teaching in the area of healing arts of mind and body at the university. MAUREEN's keen interest in the intuitive arts has expanded her curiosity to the spiritual side of life. MAUREEN is a featured reader of tarot in the Pacific Northwest, appears at intuitive art fairs in the Seattle region, and is a frequent guest on local and international radio networks. Her work has opened up doors using symbols and metaphors to help those find light in the midst of loss and grief. It is a positive experience to share in the healing messages of the tarot. So joining me now to talk about her new book that is entitled Baby, It's Your Message from the Deceased Heroes, is MAUREEN McGILL. And MAUREEN, welcome to the X-Zone.
Thank you so much, Rob, for having me on the show. Actually, the title of the book is called Baby, It's You, Messages from Deceased Heroes. So he called her baby when he was here, and she called him baby.
Who is the she?
The she is military wives who have lost their loved ones in war at a very young age, and also family members who have lost somebody in a war. They're just inspiring collection of true life messages from the other side after they've passed over, these soldiers, and it kind of open our hearts to the unending love connections that never end.
Now, did you channel these messages?
You know, I did not channel these messages. I actually collected these true messages, the true stories from the family members who have shared these messages with me.
Well, that's really that's really nice. Yeah.
The press really wants to hear about how they died, how they're recovering. You know, how are things going with the family, but the family members really want to tell you these kinds of experiences that they have that are just not always accepted in mainstream society, you know?
So tell me, how did you become interested in the field of after-death communication?
Well, in my career in dance, I've always believed that this awareness extended beyond the body. In dance, I could sense it, I could feel it, I could know it. And so I began to develop a course at the university called Healing Arts of Mind and Body. And in that course, we explored different healing modalities that involved energy-based medicines. And I became very interested in the International Association of Near-Death Studies.
Yeah.
I became a member, and I presented there for about 3 national conventions. And I really believe that it mixes the science and the spirituality together. And this sense of after-death communication is so with us and so alive.
Why do you think there's a portion of society that still thinks of after-death communication as something that is basically found in the weird categories of tabloid newspapers and on the Sci-Fi Channel?
You know, Rob, it's because we just can't see it. We just can't necessarily quantify it. You know, there's not always a picture that's totally clear that can be repeated. So I think that also religions have had something to do with that as well. When some religions have sensed that when it's over, they go to heaven and that's it, and there's no other consciousness that kind of goes on. But I truly believe that this awareness does go on, and that these organizations, you know, have the proof.
You and I have to take a commercial break. Please stand by, Maureen. Exonation Maureen McGill is our special guest this hour. We're talking about after-death communication. The name of her book is Baby, It's You Messages. That can't be right. It's You Messages? Oh, it must be a typo. All right, what's the name of your book?
Baby, It's You, Messages from Deceased Heroes.
I guess I was right. All right, stand by, Maureen. We'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. And for more information, you can visit babyitsyou.org. The X-Zone, a place where people dare to believe, Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight on the X-Zone Broadcast Network and our worldwide family of broadcast affiliates and satellite providers. We'll be back in 2. Don't go away. Afterlife expert Roberta Grimes was the first one to say that dying can be fun. Now her best-selling book, The Fun of Dying, is available in stores worldwide. So if you wonder whether death ends life, how it feels to die, or what heaven might be like, The Fun of Dying was written for you. And if you have always been afraid of death, or if you worry that your life has no meaning, let The Fun of Dying ease your fears and bring new meaning to your life. Nothing said in The Fun of Dying is based on the teachings of any religion. Instead, Roberta draws on evidence to explain how death happens, how it feels, and what comes next. A lot of the best death-related evidence was produced in the first half of the 20th century. When it is put together with recent discoveries, it tells a consistent and amazing story. Roberta Grimes blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Her wonderful book, The Fun of Dying, is available on Amazon and at stores worldwide wherever books are sold. You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
While science pursues fact, magic accesses the quantum level, bridging random facts to form truth. As long as science and magic remain separate and polarized, the truth cannot be known. I'm Wilda Wiecka. Join me on the Science of Magic radio program dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. During each episode, I'll be speaking with experienced and respected scientists and mystics. From astrologers to astronomers, from medical doctors to shaman, the scientific method to dowsing and intuition, we will weave together information from seemingly divergent practices to promote unity and enlightenment. Join me, Wilda Wiecka, and the Science of Magic right here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Starr began to demonstrate a metaphysical connection to the spirit world as a little girl. Her family noticed the connection, but it was a great-grandmother who told the family that Linnea was indeed gifted. The great-grandmother, who was also gifted, felt that Linnea had indeed inherited these attributes. It has been noticed that oftentimes such things are passed down through the generations. Linnea was also born with a caul, a thin white membrane across a newborn's face. Legend has it that if the baby is born with this caul, the child will have second sight, or what we call psychic abilities. Linnea Starr does past, present, and future, and has the gift of prophecy. It is written within scriptures that if you were able to give factual information, and prophecies indeed come true, the gift indeed comes from the divine realm. Linnea Starr does large interactive groups as well as private gatherings. For more information on Linnea Starr or to contact Linnea for a one-on-one consultation, visit her website at www.linneastar.com. That's www.linneastar.com. You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. X-Zone Nation, Maureen McGill is our special guest. She is the author of Baby It's You, and her website is babyitsyou.org. We were talking about why there are still members of society who look at the communication with the other side, Maureen, as, you know, from the pages of a tabloid newspaper to, science fiction. Then you said, well, that's because religion also is responsible for that. And yet I disagree, because when you look at Christianity talks about life after death. You have the resurrection of Jesus, and then you have, Lazarus coming back to life. And then you've got the prophets who have talked from the other side. So how do we say religion is basically saying it's poo-poo when the Bible has these examples in it?
And I agree with you so much, but so many people really would not want to believe that they can actually see their loved one standing in the porch, waving goodbye to them. It's like that wouldn't be accepted. What would be accepted is that their presence might be around, or they might sense them, or they might feel them. But religion doesn't always accept that. That they're right there in terms of our awareness, that we could smell them, that we could sense them, that we could feel their presence.
So tell me, how does spirit connect with those deceased soldiers in your book?
So there's different ways that the message comes through, and it's actually pretty fascinating of how that message comes through. It might be like I just said, in the senses. Mm-hmm. So the widow might smell their loved one, or she might feel his touch, or it might be in a waking dream where she just absolutely heard his voice and she sat up in bed and heard that voice. So a dream could be the way. The children might often see them. And we have a story in the book where the children actually see their dad standing on the porch, waving goodbye to them on their first day of school. They both turned absolutely white. They ran to their mom and they said, "We just saw Dad standing behind you on the porch." So it's remarkable how the message might come. And also another way is through music. Music and the thrill of the song that kind of comes on the radio that was their song. These stories are attached to a love song that was their song all the way through the book. And how that song comes through at different times kind of pierces through from that other side. Maybe in church, maybe in the elevator, maybe in the car when they're just driving along. I mean, how could that song possibly come on the radio? And so she kind of knows that is him. That is him coming through.
Is it really him coming through, or is it just a coincidence that the song comes on at that specific time?
You know, I just don't think it's a coincidence because it comes on at such unusual times, you know, and times that there's a knowingness for that receiver that's receiving that song that there's no way that song would have just come on randomly they're paying attention.
Why not?
And
if you're in the elevator, they have elevator music. If you're driving your car to work, you're listening to a radio station that you like, that will probably play a song from the area that you like. Same thing with the satellite radio that you get at home or in the car. You know, it's how do you say this is truly a sign, or is it based on the person's desire to have a connection?
You know, I just think sometimes it isn't necessarily that they really want that connection, because I'm sure they do. But I think it comes in out of the blue when you least expect it. All of a sudden, that song comes on. Oh my gosh, I never expected to hear that song as I walked into this particular situation. We have a situation where this couple took a trip every year from the Oregon coast, and they drove across the country to Washington, D.C. every year. And then they drove back from Washington, D.C. back over to the Oregon coast. And every time they crossed the bridge from the state of Washington to Oregon, this certain song would come on the radio. Mm-hmm. And it was the final time that this family was making this trip because the dad died. And they were carrying his ashes back with them over this bridge.
Right.
And when they went over the bridge in Oregon, this song came on the radio that was their song, that song that he would always say to everybody in the car, stop and I'm going to sing it for you. But that song came on.
But you just said yourself that every time they cross this bridge, this song would come on. So they're crossing the bridge again. They're crossing the bridge again, and the song comes on.
Yeah, I kind of made a mistake when I said that. What happens was the dad would always have everybody in the car be quiet, and he would actually turn the radio off, and he would sing that song. Okay, and then so that's the difference in the connection. So he would sing that song, and it was Blue Bayou, and it was that final trip that they went across that bridge, and the radio was on this time, and he's in ashes. Okay, he's in ashes in the car, and they're going to deter his ashes on the way over that bridge. And what happens is that song comes on the radio. Unbelievable.
Why is it that some people receive messages from the other side and other people don't?
Well, there's one philosophy about that, and sometimes the grief is so heavy here that we can't hug our loved ones, and the grief is so heavy on the other side that I think that veil of grief can sometimes be so difficult for the other side to pierce through and for us to pierce through to them. But it's not always so heavy if somebody else gets the message who is not attached to the heaviness of that grief.
Give me an example.
So one example would be that someone who is just, really upset about losing their loved one. They're dead, they're gone. Just completely sending that vibration. I'm never going to hear from them again. I'm just in so much grief about it. I can't stop thinking about it every day. I just know that they're dead and I'm never going to hear them again. And it's like, when the grief just takes over, there's no room for them to come through. It's like there's no room.
You say never going to see them again, never going to hear from them again. These sound like words that someone who doesn't have a belief in heaven or another existence would say. Because for those who believe in heaven, we'll meet again someday.
And some people may have that philosophy, but I think that the difficult thing here is the physical body. I can never hug them again. I can never kiss them again. I can never hold their hand again. And so when the grief is there after a person dies, even though they know they're in heaven, if that's their faith factor or whatever, even though they know that, there is that still that grief holds the body. When a father loses a child, or a mother loses a child, that's a very difficult grief. that can go on for many, many years. You never get over losing a child.
Why?
But sometimes the grief can lighten.
Mm-hmm. So why is it that we have such a negative outlook on death? Because the reality is the moment we are conceived is the moment we start to die. That will never change. So why is it that we all look at grief so horrifically instead of looking at grief or looking at the passing of somebody and looking at the wonderful things that this person has done and celebrating their life?
Right. I don't know why, really. I think it's because people hold on to these feelings of denial. They don't want to really feel what it's like to be sad. There's a denial there. There's a denial of allowing the grief to just be there, to work through it. I don't need to feel that. I don't want to feel those feelings. That's too difficult for me. Instead of what you said, is to celebrate.
Yeah.
Now, I do think life is changing. I do think there's more of awareness now. When you hear about memorial services now, you really hear them about a celebration much more than when it was maybe several years ago where it really wasn't a celebration.
Mm-hmm. When do you think the best time for receiving messages from the other side, from those who have passed, is?
Some cultures, some Native American cultures will say that no, messages won't come through for a year after that particular passing. But there's other examples that people have received messages as soon as they've passed. So I don't think that there is any particular timing as to when the message comes. I just simply say, just make that intention that you'd like to receive the message. Maybe you don't want to see your loved one standing at the edge of the bed, but maybe you would love it if the light came on. Or maybe you'd love it if you could smell that fragrance of that perfume. Or maybe you'd love it if you could just hear that song come on the radio when you least expect it. I'll tell you a situation that I was attending this May. So I was on my way to a graduation ceremony at the university where I was going to stand up after 38 years of teaching. And I was a little bit nervous about going to the ceremony by myself. And I remembered a student who really taught me in dance the beauty and the sacredness of the Hawaiian hula dance. He taught me that, and he danced at the Royal Hawaiian Hotel in Hawaii with the Brothers Casimiro, a singing group there. He was a beautiful dancer, but he died many years ago. And for some odd reason, I was thinking about him as I put my gown on, and I got in the car, and I was kind of nervous, and I said, "Hey, Scott, if you're over there and you're seeing me what I'm doing right now, can you give me a message?" So, no fooling, I turned that radio on, and it just happened to be the Hawaiian Connection, which is a radio show that's broadcast here in the area on Saturday afternoons. I had no idea that my radio station was, set at that particular station. Right. And on that radio station was Hawaiian music. Okay, that was one little message. I thought, okay. But then the next real message was his brother. His brother is a singer, and he recorded a song. And that song by Brickwood Galutaria came on the radio. Boom, it was right there. And so I knew that was a message from Scott. I knew that it was going to be okay to attend the ceremony, and there was just kind of a knowingness that he was right there with me. It was kind of a nice little wink, as I call it.
So how do we explain that a DJ at a radio station or a programmer or a computer for some reason fires a song that will mean something to someone?
How do we explain that?
Yeah.
Because that radio announcer also thinks about the heart. When they're putting together music, when they're putting together selections, they're doing that. They're working with their hearts. They're doing with the vibration of the sound and the music that is that theme for that day. I mean, how did I know that radio station was going to come on? That particular program. I had no idea that program was even on Saturday afternoon.
That's why I was asking about coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that there are a lot of things that people would love to put towards the paranormal and to put as a specific meaning to someone from the other side. But being in radio, I know that computers generate the song lists now. Everything is timed. So I'm trying to understand, in a realm that I fully understand, how this would work.
Well, why wouldn't my radio have come on with News Radio, 78 when I turned the radio on? When I set my intention when I got in that car to have a message from Scott. Oh my gosh, I mean, I could have had a news radio station, but that's not what came on. What came on was a radio connection show, a Hawaiian radio connection show. I'm like, what?
Okay.
How could that be, you know?
Well, you must have set the channel.
I must have set the channel at some point, but how would I know that? I didn't. I think about it. This is an AM station, AM radio station, broadcast out of Seattle. I have no idea that this was a show that's on Saturday afternoon.
Sometimes I turn on TV and there's a movie on the movie channel that I didn't think was going to be on. I didn't even know it was going to be on, but I enjoy watching it. Wouldn't that be the same?
You know, it's not quite the same because I asked for a message. I asked for a message from Scott Galutaria, and what song comes on the radio but a song recorded by his brother? And they said the name of his brother right there on the radio.
All right, stand by. I've got to take my news break at the bottom of the hour. XO Nation, Maureen McGill is our guest. Her website is babyitsyou.org, and we'll be back on the other side of the short break. Don't go away.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Thomas Jefferson was a Burgess of 27 when he met Martha Wales Skelton, a 22-year-old widowed heiress who was fondly called Patty by her family. They were married on January the 1st, 1772, and they took up residence in a cabin on the building site on top of a Virginia mountain that Thomas had named Monticello. As Thomas and Patty slowly built their first version of the great house at Monticello, the Revolutionary War was heating up. Patty, with difficulty, bore 5 children, but only 2 girls survived. Thomas's political career developed to the point where he was often away from home. But after he authored and signed the Declaration of Independence in Philadelphia, he resolved never again to leave his wife. He was elected the governor of Virginia, just as that state became the Revolution's last battleground. The Revolutionary War ended in 1781, and Thomas gladly retired altogether to my family, my farm, and my books. But Patty continued to want to bear her treasured husband a son, and late in the summer of 1782, she died of kidney failure at the age of 33, 4 months after having borne yet another girl. Thomas was so devastated by her death that he never remarried. He mourned her for the rest of his life, even as he helped to frame the peace in France and then became the first Secretary of State, the second Vice President, and the third President of the United States. This story is true. Thomas Jefferson was such an obsessive letter writer and record keeper that we know where he was and what he was doing nearly every day of his adult life. Every significant thing he says in My Thomas comes from his contemporary writings. My Thomas by Roberta Grimes is now available at Barnes & Noble, Costco, Target, Books A Million, Hudson Booksellers, Kmart, Walmart, Sam's Club, Walgreens, CVS, and online at Amazon.com. You can visit Roberta Grimes online at www.robertagrimes.com.
The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com.
Unwilling to be the government's deadly assassin, gifted psychic Kahara Mitchell went AWOL and ended up buried under rubble in the wake of a great tsunami. She regained consciousness far from Earth on the medical ship of a Daguerreonian intergalactic fleet. Has she been rescued or abducted by aliens? The Chalice of Carrie, Kahira O'Donnell's latest paranormal science fiction romance, is the passionate story of an Earth woman and her destined mates, twin kings from another galaxy. Kahara uses her gifts fighting alongside Lords Rom and Ra in a war that will determine the destiny of galaxies. The Chalice of Carrie by Kahira O'Donnell is now available at KahiraO'Donnell.com or at Amazon.com. You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. What happened in Benghazi is revealed by Nicholas Genix, author of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. He informs the American people that President Obama deceived them by advocating a strong foreign policy prior to the 2012 presidential election, and Hillary Clinton supported this deception. As the title infers, there is a connection between Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. Ample evidence informs Americans that Obama's early indoctrination in the Quran developed an affinity for Islam, why the Quran is the source of discontent in many countries, and why the Obama foreign policy deception led to poor military action and caused the loss of American lives in Benghazi. Genix provides 36 questions for the Select Committee on Benghazi to validate if Americans are justified to mistrust President Obama and Hillary Clinton. An overview of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi is presented on the website www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. Annie Callahan, dedicated to negotiating a position for Earth within the Daguerreonian Coalition, had trained for 3 years to become an Earth ambassador. Yet, the very eve of her arrival at the capital ruling planet, she is claimed as destined mate to an oversized, mating-maddened vamp who swears he will never release her. Lord Aztaran, king of the Macian sector, has waited over 900 years for his destined mate. Having found her as an alpha vamp, he is unable to relinquish Annie, virtually holding her hostage until he can claim her. Yet Macians cannot survive without their mate's love. How could he strip her of her citizenship, her ambassadorship, and her freedom and expect to win her heart? With All That I Am by Kahira O'Donnell is the latest book in this exciting series, The Daguerreonian Chronicles, guaranteed to keep readers coming back for more. With All That I Am by Kahira O'Donnell is available on Amazon.com and KahiraO'Donnell.com.
You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Radio's authority on the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology, celebrating 25 years of broadcasting. broadcasting around the world and to the great beyond.
Welcome back, everyone. The question is there life after death? Are people able to communicate from the other side? Send me an email. Tell me what you think. Xzone at xzoneradiotv.com. My guest this hour is Maureen McGill. She is the author of BabyIt'sYou.org. What is your opinion about how experiences in after death often show our loved ones at a younger age and free of all wounds and disease that they may have had when they passed?
You know, I've recently kind of come up with this theory that I kind of sense that the vibration on the other side is faster. You know, when we're young and we're in the youth, our vibrations here on the planet are faster. We don't have wrinkles. We move freely. Our bodies are free. The vibration is faster with children. And there's something about that vibration to me, and you might be able to explain this in the paranormal, that speeds up on the other side. So I think when they come through, there's often a healing that has taken place as they entered this passageway to this higher vibration, which is much faster.
Has there ever been a time when an apparition or someone from the other side has made themselves available to more than one person?
You mean at the exact same time?
Yep.
You know, I don't know too many. I haven't collected any stories like that, but I'm sure that that's happened because I believe that consciousness expands. And you will often hear about at times of death, right after that person dies, several people in different locations will somehow get a sense of that loved one, or, you know, maybe something in the room, their garment or something like that is around and they kind of took notice of it, or you hear about people having dreams that they can sense that timing of when the loved one died. And it can often be at the same time that several people pick it up. So I think time is very different on the other side. They say there is no time, as you've probably explored in your show.
Sure. What importance does a dream play when it comes to messages from the other side?
You know, I think dreams are very important, but I think dreams are different when it's an actual visitation in terms of a person connecting from the other side. When a person senses that their loved ones comes through in a dream, they'll wake up with the knowingness. It'll just seem so real. It's so different than a normal dream. When a dream, we wake up, oh yeah, I had that dream, whatever. But sometimes the skin on the arm, the hair on your arm will just, you know, stay right up, or you'll have chills. Or there's a knowingness that makes it different in a dream when it's a visitation dream.
What do you think is the real reasons why our loved ones try to reconnect?
You know, I think the real reason is that it's about love, and it's the vibration of love that never dies. And, you know, everything heals, I believe, on the other side. Everything comes to a place of healing, whether there's been divorces here, or there's been arguments, or there's been unresolved information. I believe that it heals on the other side. And those loved ones, those pets, everything that they've had, that if they've connected to on this side, that have passed to the other side, will come to welcome them, will come to be with them.
What happens, let's say somebody's been married, they got divorced, and they get married, they get divorced. They get married, they get divorced.
Right.
You know, which is all too common in society today. Would all three parties see the apparition, or would the apparition only go to a favored?
No, that's a good question. I believe that this love thread continues, and that apparition might come to all three, but the key is that it's welcomed on the other side in terms of the healing. There's no longer, you know, they work on this maybe on the other side. Who knows? Who has the answers? If you actually had the answers, you wouldn't really know. You know what I mean? It's like what we know, we don't really know.
Well, why can't we get answers from the other side if they're able to communicate with us? Why aren't we able to solve these mysteries of the years?
You know, I think that there are stories and there's experiences where they do solve certain mysteries. I have a beautiful story in this book, And it involves a waking dream that this mother of a soldier had. Her son, Patrick McCaffrey, died in Iraq. And Patrick came to her in a dream 3 times. And when he was here in the world, he had 2 children, a boy and a girl. And in this dream, Patrick came to his mother, Nadia, and he said to his mother, "My son." And she kind of woke up from this waking vision, and she thought, "My son? Oh my gosh." It was so real. It was like Patrick was in the room. So she thought, "Oh, there must be something wrong with my grandson." So she called her daughter-in-law, and the daughter-in-law said, "Everything's fine with the grandson, no problem." Nadia has the dream for a second time, and he comes again in his fatigues, and he says to her, "Mother, my son." And then she sits up in bed again and goes, "Oh my gosh, what is this?" This time I'm talking to my grandson. So she talked to the grandson. He was doing fine. Everything was great. Then she has it a third time, okay? And then she's really kind of creeped out. And within a few days, she gets a phone call. And on the other end of the phone line is a young man. And he's crying. He's weeping. He said, "You know, my father died in Iraq." And she said, "Who are you? I never heard who you are. I don't know who you are." And he identified himself, who he was. And she said she didn't know who he was. And then he said, "My mother had me, and my mother dated Patrick when he was in high school." Well, the story unfolds in that the mother never told Patrick that she was pregnant. Instead, she just left town, and she had this baby. So here, Patrick gives his mother this message that she has another grandson, and he finds this out on the other side because this woman never told him that she was going to have a baby. So it's remarkable how the other side can bring us that message.
Strange, yes. That is truly strange.
Now, Nadia is somebody in her life that has had a near-death experience. And sometimes in near-death experiences, we're a little bit more open to that vibration of the other side. For some reason, that crossing over and then coming back makes that portal somehow a little bit more open. So maybe she was a little bit more open to receive that message from Patrick. But, oh my gosh, she brought these families together. This son, this new grandson, had very similar characteristics as her son. He even ordered the same food at the restaurant. I mean, it was remarkable when she took him out to dinner. Had similar interests in sport teams that her son would have had. And brought these families together in the most loving way that she could. Pretty remarkable.
Do you vet these stories, or do you take them sight unseen?
What could you explain that again? I couldn't hear you.
Do you vet the stories? Do you verify them?
Oh, yes. I mean, I verify them in the way that this could be true. I mean, we don't have the science here. You know, how could we have the science here?
So
we can't know exactly. I mean, you can't measure it. Maybe you can in your paranormal shows. You actually measure that's how they did. But I mean, why is she going to lie to me about that story? I mean, she had a dream where he came to her before that grandson called.
No, why I asked you that is because in today's world, I think we take way too much for granted. And I think this is one of our major problems. I think, and this is just my opinion, that there has to be a lot more, you know, they're beautiful stories, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But I just want to know, could some of them be made up? Could some of them be how the person would like to perceive a communication from the other side, even though they don't have one?
Maybe.
Yeah.
But it seems to me that when they tell the story and how they tell the story, that they smell that fragrance, and that fragrance was right there at the graveside. She could smell baking of chocolate chip cookies. That's what he did all the time in his life, is he baked chocolate chip cookies when he came home. So here she's standing at the graveside, and she can smell that. Now, maybe she just created that because she wanted to create that, and, you know, you can, you know, kind of justify it in that way. But I like to think of it as a magical love connection that truly comes alive, and it truly helps in the grief and in the healing for the grief to know that our loved ones are still with us.
Grief is for the living, right?
Right.
So many a times we want, we desire, we create. Our mind is a very powerful instrument. So my question in this story is, why would there be chocolate chip smells, aroma that she is picking up at the grave and not at her home? Because
she's standing there, she's talking to him at the gravesite, she's walking around the gravesite, she's asking, for a message, and there it is. It's like she smells it. What can I say? I wish I could have more of an explanation of it. But I also believe that there's certain vibrations that they can get through. One of those vibrations is the way when we were with them in this life, what were the experiences that you had? If your mom always baked pancakes in the kitchen, you may smell pancakes because that was a way that you two always connected. And she knows that she can connect with you that way. Or if you two always watch the same TV show and the TV flips to that station all the time, then maybe that's the way that she's communicating. Maybe it doesn't have to be so heavy, like it's a ghost that appears at the end of the bed. It doesn't have to be necessarily that heavy. It can just be that simple fragrance or that you hear that voice. I was almost in a car accident one time, and I have not had many experiences in this whole paranormal area. I was just about ready to have a car accident, and I heard my dad's voice say, "Pump your brakes." Now, my dad was on the other side for quite some time, maybe 10 years. He had a new car every year, and I could care less about the accident. I looked around that car and went, oh, my gosh, I just heard my dad's voice say, "Pump your brakes." And that's something he would do. He got a new car every 2 years. So here he was in the car with me.
Now, you see, I'm hearing that firsthand from you. So that, to me, gives credibility to the story.
And so I hear these stories firsthand as I collected these stories from these widows, mothers, and family members who had lost loved ones in war, in stateside accidents, or suicide.
How did they get a hold of you to give you these stories?
It really went word of mouth. So once I started to write the book, several of the widows have different organizations, and they told other widows, and it was kind of word of mouth. If you had this experience, please contact her. And there were some stories that I didn't use, that I didn't know if I could believe in the level that they were speaking. As you were saying before, how did you know? And it's just kind of sensing that knowingness of how the tone that they told me, the sense of reality about it.
Okay, so you did use some sort of intermeter, whether or not the story was credible. That's what I was getting at before. How do you vet the stories? Okay, so now you've answered me. When did you decide in your life that you wanted to become a tarot reader? And you appear at intuitive art fairs and so on. When did this start? And
it was about 20 years ago. For my birthday every year, I would have an astrological chart done and kind of look at the path and how it works in the different houses, how it works for your career, how it works for your love life, whatever it might be, your health. And so the teacher in that work has written about 12 books. Her name is Arlene Tognetti, about 12 books on the tarot and astrology and intuition. And she said, why don't you pick up a tool? Why don't you think about doing this tool? So I studied the tool for quite some time, and then it just started to happen for me. And I found that it was a really helpful tool to give us metaphors and symbols to what's going on in our lives.
There are a number of different tarot decks out there. What is the significance of one deck to another deck?
It's just a level of artistry. I think it's just a different tool. It could be tea leaves. It could be I've heard people read chocolate. I mean, in terms of different tarot decks, it's just whatever comes to you in terms of the artwork. I believe it's kind of the artwork and what you're attracted to on that particular deck.
So would it be safe to say that the tarot card or the crystal ball or the tea leaf is just something that the reader can focus on to channel their concentration in order to get the message or the meaning? Because doesn't the tarot deck have a specific meaning for each card?
Yes, the tarot deck has a specific meaning for each card, and they're designed by an artist, and every artist might have a different slight interpretation of each of the symbols on the cards, but it's just a tool. It's just one more tool to work with the intuition. You know, our intuition is with us every day. We walk into a party and we're talking to somebody, and all of a sudden behind us, we know somebody's staring at us, and soon enough, we just turn around and there they are staring at us. So it's kind of just that awareness that extends beyond the body. And I think the tarot cards give you that symbol, that sense to help you to receive those messages. There's different techniques that are used in the tarot of being able to look past, present, and future. But I think there's always free will in this life. And no tarot reader could tell you that, you know, how an outcome is necessarily going to be as the absolute truth, but simply as a tool to lead you in a particular direction.
The same could be said about a psychic reading, a channeled reading, an astrological chart. There is no set, defined way in order to tell the future because, as you said, we have free will. So if you believe that I'm going to turn left and I turn right, that throws the entire reading off, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Gotcha. All right, stand by. You and I have to take our final break for this hour. Exonation Maureen McGill is our special guest, and she's written a very interesting book. It's called Baby, It's You. Her website is www.babyitsyou.com. .org. www.babyitsyou.org. That's babyitsyou.org. And Maureen and I will be back on the other side of this break as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Once again, if you'd like to listen to the X Zone 24/7, 365, visit our website at www.xzoneradiotv.com. And if you'd like to watch the last 13 episodes of the X Zone TV show with our compliments, www.xzonetv.com. And we'll both be back on the other side of this break as we continue investigating the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology here in the X Zone. Once again, my guest is Maureen McGill.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness. Much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
You're listening to the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. If you enjoy reading a good mystery with a touch of the paranormal, then you'll love From Out of the Woodwork by William S. Peckham. Sean Kennedy, a Toronto contractor, buys derelict houses, guts them, and turns them into multi-family dwellings. When Sean buys 29 Livery Lane, a century house in ruins, and starts the renovation, the house fights back. He is visited by ghosts of owners past. His visions are triggered by touching an oak mantle, reading a faded letter, opening an old locket, or opening a brand new casket in the basement. These visions will take you on a trip across southern Ontario from Niagara Falls to Toronto to Kingston. From Out of the Woodwork is now available in paperback and on your favorite electronic reader. To order your copy of From Out of the Woodwork, go to www.williamspeckham.com. That's www.williamspeckham.com. You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Exonation Maureen McGill has been my guest this hour. She is the author of Baby It's You, www.babyitsyou.org. It's available at amazon.com. Another website for our guest is livefromtheotherside.com. What would you like to tell the members of the Exonation tonight about the other side? What's your final message for them, Maureen?
Yes, my final message is simply to really say that, love really never dies. It's only the body we cannot hold. And new breath follows us in dreams and in visions and in waking magical moments that feel so real.
Right.
And songs can fuel our hearts and dance in our memories. That imprint never leaves us. And it's all good and it's all bad and it's all ugly. Yeah. But it's all beautiful and it's everlasting love.
Has anyone that you're aware of done a book about messages from the other side from children who have passed back to their parents?
Yes. Actually, Dr. Melvin Morris wrote a book called Closer to the Light. And these were near-death experiences with children. But some of those experiences actually were children who passed over and gave messages to their parents.
Do children communicate easier than adults would from the other side?
That's a really good question. That, like I said before, I do think that the vibration is faster with children, but I can't say that it's any different or that they give messages more, if we can quantify that in any kind of way.
It's interesting. It must be very hard for those who communicate from one side to the other when it comes from children, and I honestly don't know how they cope with it.
I don't either. It's a very difficult situation for parents to lose children. They never get over it, but to know that they will be reunited someday is just a beautiful part of the message, I think.
It truly is. Any more books coming out in the near future?
I'm hoping to. I'm working on the second book now, third book now. It'll be my third book, and I'm just kind of generating some interest in what that's actually going to take place or how that's going to form, but I'm hoping to maybe talk about that portal of communication that mediumship uses to the other side.
Can you quickly tell us about your book that you co-authored with Nola Davis entitled Live from the Other Side?
Yeah, Live from the Other Side is also a collection of true life messages from people of all walks of life, different walks of life. And it's like angel books and ghost stories have intrigued readers, but this is like more than stories of visits from Aunt Edna. It contains real experiences of people who validated this kind of universal connection with deceased loved ones.
And I believe that more information about Live from the Other Side can be obtained by going to livefromtheotherside.com.
Very good.
Once again, Maureen, thank you so much for joining us. Nice talking. I wish you much success. I love the fact that you're bringing closure, and you're also opening up the doors to possibility to those who may not have ever thought of this. The message is important, and so is the work. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
You take care of yourself now, you hear?
You too.
All right, Exonation, there you've got it. Maureen McGill. She is the author of babyitsyou.org. Baby It's You. It's available at babyitsyou.org. She's also the co-author of the nonfiction book that's entitled Live from the Other Side. And it's available at livefromtheotherside.com, and both books are available on amazon.com. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as we continue here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name's Rob McConnell. Don't go away, because I'll be back.